What is going on, guys? Welcome to The Reformed Reader, the channel where we review different forms of media through the lens of a Christian who is under the authority of the scriptures. My name is Josh, and today we're going to be doing a book review of Weird Space by A.M. Wiley. Now, for full transparency, I was sent a copy by the author. Thank you so much, Mr. Wiley. I so appreciate it. Thank you for even considering me. But before we jump into the review, let's go over what is this book about. Now, usually I do my own voiceover and a little cinematic, but today the author has given us a special treat and is allowing me to use his very own book trailer. So without any further ado, let's go over what is Weird Space about.
There are dimensions beyond your own, creatures beyond your imagining, and they're coming to your backyard.
Hello?
Dash! Help! I'm going down an uncharted territory.
Author A.M. Wiley presents
Dad? I'll be back later.
a new world of adventure and danger. They call it Weird Space, where fantasy becomes reality.
Isn't he grounded? What is he even doing out there?
You didn't say.
What was so important that we had to come all the way out here?
This better be good, dude.
This spring, our fate rests in the hands of children who've stumbled onto a secret that's out of this world. They call themselves Dimension Warriors.
Hold on back there.
The saga continues with Weird Space 2, coming soon to a galaxy near you.
All right, guys, so the way that I normally structure my reviews is I go over the good, the bad, and the ugly. The good being the things about the book that I enjoyed, the bad being the things that I didn't care so much for, and these are preferential things. Maybe it's a character I didn't like, or the setting, or maybe the prose. But then I go over the ugly, which is what could be some sin that is steeped into this work that might hold a Christian back from picking it up. And I break that down into 5 categories. But without any further ado, let's go over the good. What did I enjoy about this book? Almost everything. It was phenomenal. If that's all you're looking for, whether or not I like this book, yes, I absolutely loved it. So first and foremost, the characters. The characters are great. Now, I have described this book as The Goonies meets The Last Starfighter. Now, for those of you that don't know anything about The Last Starfighter, I'm sorry. For those of you that do, imagine if our cast and crew from The Goonies were sort of chosen for the Last Starfighter style epic story. And for those of you maybe that aren't so familiar with The Last Starfighter, maybe not as good of a comparison would be if The Goonies and E.T. kind of met. I've heard this book described several times as sort of a Stranger Things type feel, and I would say it has a little bit of that, but there's not like the horror or the creepy kind of elements, in my opinion. I mean, there's maybe just a little creep factor, but really overall, I would say it falls more in line with E.T. So imagine if you took The Goonies and E.T. and kind of blended them together. That's what you've got with this book. So if you really like the coming of age, the not just coming of age, but the nostalgia of the early 90s, maybe late 80s, you were one of those kids that rode your bikes through the neighborhood, that terrorized the neighborhood with your buddies on your bicycles, and you stayed out all night. If you were one of those kids, and you really enjoy that type of story, then I really think that you're going to connect with these characters and with the story overall, but predominantly with the characters. The characters are just so fantastic. And it's not just our main character, because our main character, Drew, while he is kind of up front for the majority of the story, our supporting cast, to me, is equally as important as the supporting cast in the Goonies. So, in the Goonies, you have Chunk and Mouth and Data and those types of guys. But Mikey is sort of our main character. He is the protagonist of the story. And this is very similar in that we have Drew, who is our main character, but then you have guys like Ryan and Justin and Kevin, and then the girls, and of course, Sheila. But Drew is our main protagonist. I would say this book has several protagonists, but he is our main protagonist. I'm going to be making a lot of comparisons with this book and the Goonies because it really had a similar feel. If you guys love the Goonies, you're going to love this book. But it is slightly different. It's almost like if the Goonies went on a more sci-fi story. So that's where I could see some of the Stranger Things-esque storytelling kind of woven in there. But yeah, the characters are just fantastic. But one of the biggest things that I really, really loved about this book is that we have character depth. We see character depth, especially with our main character, Drew. And without going into spoilers, with Drew and his relationship with his father, I'm just going to tell you guys right now, the dad stuff in books really kind of hits me. So when I'm reading things about not just children, but the relationships between children and their fathers, especially good fathers, man, that really does something to me, as you guys probably know, with like Boy's Life. So that really kind of tugs on my heartstrings, especially in this story, because his dad is just like an upstanding guy. So yeah, really, really love that there is a lot of nuance in our characters. And I'm not just talking about Drew, our main character, but our supporting cast. Really, there's some nuance and depth with each one of their characters and their family dynamic and their dynamic with each other. And not just the dynamic with like this one side character and the group, but it's how this one side character interacts with this person in the group and how it's different from how he interacts with this person in the group and so on. It's just so well done. The characters are fantastic. The plot is great. Now, I'll say this, the plot is familiar, yet still original. Now, while those things may seem contradictory, what I mean is it's familiar in style, but it is original as far as how it's executed. Now, some people may disagree with that. That's fine. You have the right to do that, and you can be wrong if you want to. But for me, it had that familiar style, but it still had an original story. But even if you say that, well, the story isn't super original, which I have heard criticisms, and not even super negative criticisms, but I've heard that as a criticism, I would still say that you're not going to find it as well executed as I've read in this book in most mediums, not just novels, but in TV shows, movies, you name it. Mr. Wiley does it so well. And then the setting, he absolutely nails the small town setting in the early 90s. It's so good. It's so well done. On top of that, let me just tell you guys, this book is pedal to the metal. I mean, this book is so fast paced. It's very short, in my opinion. Now, I received an ebook of this, but I am ordering the physical edition because I love this book so much. I think the book is like less than 300 pages or like right at it, but it reads super fast. I think I read it in like maybe 2 or 3 sittings. I mean, it's really, really good. And I kept finding myself wanting to go back to it. So yeah, it is super fast paced, but it's not like we don't slow down with our characters when we need to. We definitely take our foot off of the gas whenever we are dealing with some of that character depth and those relationships with not just our main character and his father, but particularly with him. We definitely like pump the brakes kind of quickly, but then we can really kind of be steeped into that dynamic between Drew and his dad, Steve. It's just so good. It's so well done. Yeah, you're left with that sense of intrigue, that sense of nostalgia I mean, you have the coming of age, you have these the group of friends, the sort of rejects to a degree that are being picked on. And you also have them dealing with bullies while they're dealing with these extraterrestrial things that are going on around them. It's so well done. So characters, plot, the setting, the pacing, and the prose is very accessible. Now, I don't mean that it's simple, I mean it's accessible. Honestly, I'm not just okay with that, I tend to prefer that. I'm not really a prose guy. Like, I'm not a prose snob or whatever that people call themselves for whatever reason. I'm not a prose snob. And so this just reads like a very well explained story. So it is very accessible. And what I mean is, I would feel very comfortable with handing this book to my son, who's soon to be 12 years old, and know that he's not going to miss anything or not be able to understand anything in it. I'm not saying that this is like middle grade reading level, because my son reads quite a bit and he reads on a pretty advanced reading level predominantly, but I'm saying it's accessible, meaning this is easy to read, which means it's a lot easier for us to get drawn into the story itself, which I absolutely loved. So now let's go over the bad. What were some things about this book that I didn't enjoy? And I'm happy to say I really can't think of anything. I'll say this, for the bad, I'm still going to talk about some good stuff. I've heard people say that indie published books are not as well edited or executed as traditionally published books. Now, while there may be some merit to that in certain books, and I have experienced that with some books, this is not true for this book. This book is more edited than many traditionally published books that I have read. Now, I don't know if Mr. Wiley has a great editor or if he just is a great editor, but either way, if somebody handed me this book, I would never know that it was indie published. And the reason why I say that, because people almost use indie published as like a bad word, right? They're like, oh, this is good for an indie published book. You know what I mean? It's like, it's almost like we immediately lower the bar for the books that we read if they're indie published. And I haven't found that to be true at all. One of the books you guys know that I rant and rave about is Soul Cage by Luke Scholes. It's indie published. And it's one of my favorite books that I've read. One of my favorite fantasy books. It's definitely one of my favorite fantasy books of last year. And this is a very strong competitor for one of my favorite books of this year so far. It was so much fun. And that's really what I want to get across to you guys, is how much fun this book is. So for the bad, I would say there's nothing. And for those of you that are like, well, yeah, but is it good for indie published or is it good? If I tell you that something is good, I mean it's good. And if it isn't, I'm going to tell you that it isn't. This is excellent. This is top tier nostalgia, coming of age, sci-fi writing. It's so, so good. So this leads me to the ugly, which is, what could be some sin that is steeped into this work that might hold a Christian back from reading it? And I break this down into 5 categories, starting with violence and brutality. Now, for violence and brutality, I'm going to give this a 3. Yeah, it's not very violent. It's not very brutal. There is one scene in particular, for those of you that have read it, most of you, I would imagine, probably haven't, and I really hope that you do pick it up. There's one scene where our antagonist attacks a regular person. I'll just put it that way. It's not very violent. It's not very brutal, but if I have to put a number to it, I would say a 3. Just to compare it again to the Goonies, I would actually say this is less violent than the Goonies. Not very violent at all. There was a couple of action scenes, but otherwise, yeah, it's not brutal. It's not a brutal story. It's a story about this group of nerds that have discovered extraterrestrial life and are trying to save the universe. So this brings me to category 2, which is sexually explicit content. Now, for sexually explicit content, I'm going to give this a 0. There is nothing sexually explicit in this book whatsoever, and there's nothing really else to say. So this leads me into category 3, which is language. Now, for language, I'm also going to give this a 0. Yeah, there's not any language in here. There's no language in here. Now, if you're like, yeah, but does it say stupid or dumb? Yeah, it might say that. And if that's your threshold, then yeah, I'll put it in a 1. But for me personally, it was a 0. Again, for the language, I would feel perfectly comfortable with handing this to my 11-year-old son. I would have no reservations about it whatsoever. So this leads me into category 4, which is gratuitous inclusions. Now, for gratuitous inclusions, I gave this a 0. There is nothing gratuitous about this book whatsoever. We do have a diverse cast, but it's because we're dealing with a diverse group of individuals. So you're going to have a diverse cast, and they weren't diverse for the sake of diversity. They were diverse in some ways so that you can differentiate some of the characters, but also because it's just real life. It's real life, and not only is it real life, but the demographic of the setting is 100% accurate. So, yeah, there's nothing gratuitous about it whatsoever. But is there some diversity in here? Yeah, there's a diverse cast, and I'm so thankful for that, because otherwise I would get all the girls mixed up and all the boys mixed up. But you don't. You're able to differentiate which is which based on some of the descriptions, and so I so appreciate that. Now, this leads me to the final category, which is dark themes, and for this, I'm going to give a 0. There is, for me, nothing dark about this book. This is a book about hope. It's a book about hope. Yeah, this is a fantastic story. So for dark themes, even meaning heavy themes, I'm going to give this a 0. Now, I will say that some of you may give this a 1 or a 2, because there is some talk about somebody having to wrestle with a parent that has deceased. And so they're really having to wrestle emotionally with some of those things. So if you're talking about heavy themes, maybe you would want to push it up into a 1. I personally didn't. I don't think so. I just think it's real life, and that our character is dealing with real life things and having to grapple with these things. And I thought it was done so well. So for me, dark themes, I'm going to give another 0. So this leads me into the final question, which is, would I recommend this to a Christian? And the answer is unequivocally and absolutely yes, 100%. This was a near perfect book for me. Now, if you're like, what do you mean near perfect? Well, I gave this book a 5-star rating on Goodreads. And it's not just because I got a free book. I know people think that others can be biased based on their reviews because they get a free copy of the book. I'm not that way. If I liked it, I'll tell you. If I didn't, I'll tell you. I'll try to be as gracious as I can, but I absolutely love this book. So yeah, I give it 5 stars on Goodreads. I will still give it a 10 out of 10. Now, does 10 out of 10 mean it was a perfect book? I don't think so. And let me tell you why. The only drawback that I had with this book, only one thing, is that I wish that it was longer. I wish that it was longer. That's it. I wish that I had more time with it. And that's saying something. Now, for an author, I think that's what you want to hear. I think you want to hear from your audience, I wish I had more, because I personally would rather have my audience say, I wish I had more of that, rather than, yeah, I think you did too much. Is that you want your audience coming back for more. And so he intentionally, in my opinion, was able to draw me in, to lure me in, to sucker me in, and then to hit a home run, and then to just kind of leave me. And I'm like, what? I got to go into book 2, you know? And so he did an excellent job of that. I wish that I would have had more time with the book, but I just couldn't, because I kept wanting to pick it up. I kept wanting to go back to the story because of how much fun it was. So why did I give it a 10 out of 10 or a 5-star read? It's solely based on my enjoyment of the book. And if I'm just basing my ratings off of my enjoyment level, this is a 10 out of 10 without a doubt. It's so good. So would I recommend this to a Christian? Absolutely. I will champion this book for a very long time. Thank you to my friend Jordan over at First Line Library for constantly recommending this book to people. I loved the covers. I really love the cover of book 2. And so it made me want to pick up book 1. Yeah. And I don't regret it for one instant. So thank you, Jordan, for recommending that book to me. Thank you, Mr. Wiley, for sending me a copy. I'm so grateful. And I do plan on picking this book up physically and picking up book 2, but starting book 2 very, very soon. It is so, so good. So overall, sort of my final thoughts, guys. If you like the Goonies, if you like E.T., if you like The Last Starfighter, if you like Stranger Things, if you like those types of coming of age stories, then I think you're absolutely going to love this, because this is that clean coming of age story. And it's not just clean because he's trying to avoid all these things. And some people think that because a book is clean, that automatically means that the quality of it has decreased. And Mr. Wiley has absolutely shown that that is not the case. He is completely subverted those unreasonable expectations of people. This is a phenomenal book. So yeah, if you love that coming of age, if you love those kind of sci-fi stories, if you liked Zathura, if you like that movie, you're going to love this book. So I cannot recommend this book enough to enough people. It is so good. This is going to be one of those books that I'm buying copies for other people. And on top of all that, the author is a brother in Christ. So guys, please, 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 please go and support A.M. Wiley. Please go and support our not just friend, but brother. Go pick his book up. You will not regret it. It is totally worth it. It is super good. Not to mention, if you're an audiobook listener, I believe that his audiobook is still free on YouTube. It's one of those kind of immersive style audiobooks where it has sound effects and music, and it is so well done. And I think it's still free on YouTube. So go check it out. But yes, 100%, please pick up this book, not just to support a brother, but do yourself a favor. Don't miss out on this story. It is so much fun. So thank you guys so much for coming and hanging out with me. Please go and support our brother in Christ, A.M. Wiley. Please pick this book up for as many people as you possibly can. It is so good, and I hope that maybe we'll have the opportunity to talk to the author soon, and maybe you guys can get some more insight from him. Thank you, Mr. Wiley, for sending me the book. Thank you for the trailer and all that you've done. I'm so looking forward to book 2 and book 3 when it releases. I'm ecstatic to continue on in this series. Also, thank you for writing such a good, clean story. So again, guys, thank you so much for coming and hanging out with me. I appreciate each and every one of you, and I will see you on the next one.